So it's one thing for masters of one kind or degree or another to speak of how they're really operating or what they consider to be the fundamental principle of how they're working. But it's another thing for it to work.
Yes.
In the sense of people actually coming to realization as a result of associating with one master or another, or participating in some tradition or other in which there are various teachers. They may have experiences of one kind or another. They may be repaired or purified or reordered in some fashion or another through instruction. But realization is something else. So the cases of people who actually advance to a significant degree, even come close to the mode of realization of a particular master, are comparatively few.
Yes.
But nonetheless, people benefit from that company, generally speaking. So Maharshi said that in line with the great tradition altogether, the best thing to do of all the things to do is to spend time in the company of the realizer. Not meaning if you do, you will be brought to realization, and no matter who you are or what you do, or even if you do the most serious kind of disciplining of yourself, that doesn't mean that realization will come about necessarily, or even very likely. So he wasn't recommending it because that this was a sure proof, absolutely guaranteed method for coming to realization, no matter who you are. But it was the best thing to do, and it was purifying. And people would benefit from such company. And the ripest individuals, the so-called ripest, would benefit most greatly. And therefore advance more readily and profoundly. The teachers within the great tradition need to be understood in the context of timelessness or vast time. It's not merely that life is no good, so go to a master and get realized and it's all over with, you see. Life is what it is, and going to a master is something that occurs again and again and again, life after life, or in whatever circumstances occur in the transition from human life. Again and again there's the opportunity to do sadhana. It is something that comes to perfection in due course. It's not merely a trick, and it doesn't have to happen this lifetime. It is simply that there is right life, and it bears perfect fruit in due course.
Yes.
And the best thing to do in the midst of right life is to spend your time as much as possible in the company of your master.
Yes.
how much you are purified or transformed or advanced in that company, it depends on many factors. Everything to do with the character and practice of the individual devotee, and
Yes.
it also has to do with the state of the master
Yes.
himself or herself, stage of realization, qualities manifested by that master that are effective in the case of those who come to the master, and so on. So all the traditions are fundamentally built upon a timelessness, an eternal opportunity. Some traditions are stated differently and promoted differently, but that's essentially the circumstance in which teachings have been given and in which teachers have taught. All of you as devotees of mine take an eternal vow of devotion to me, not limited to this lifetime, and that's for good reason.
Yes, thank you.
Praise you, beloved. Thank you.
On the other hand, my manifestation here is unique, this way is unique.
Yes.
I employ means that are unique, my teaching is unique. So you all have a unique potential in coming into my company.
Thank you.
But it's not a game, and it's not about being just sort of clever about it and you advance, you see. As you see, 32 years plus later, and you're all student beginners. You're still asking me student beginner questions, even though those who ask me questions are very often people who have been devotees of mine for decades. They don't quite get it. They don't have Ganapati Muni's problem that they're hung up in the Sahasrara somewhere. It's more like they're hung up in their underwear than somewhere. But my method is in silence. It is a transmission of a spiritual kind. There are teachings and instructions in practice that you must be responsible for in response to me. And that applies to all, so it's not just for those who can't get it. And there are things you can do to get along with it, get on with it. And they are matters of your response and your application to the real process of responsively turning to me, such that it becomes surrender to me and availability to my self-transmitted person. In spiritual terms, there's a specific spiritual process made by my transmission. It's not just spirituality in general. It's not the spirituality of the fourth and fifth stages of life, nor merely the conventions of the transcendental and exclusive method of the sixth stage of life. It is the process associated with the seventh stage of life. It is that which is attracting you. I am attracting you. Therefore, my state, my realization is attracting you. Therefore, from the beginning, as my devotee, you are moved to communion with me, and therefore moved by the force inherent in seventh stage realization. The bright is the transmission to which you are responding, by which you are attracted in the form of my person and by all my means. Obviously, you're not going to grow in this process if you do not follow my instructions and if you do not turn to me consistently and profoundly. So there are things that are within your sphere of capability that you must exercise, and if you do so, you will see purification and transformative growth in your own case. Quickened. Not by your doings merely, but by the availability to me that manifests and improves upon. But if it doesn't involve your own mind and occupied with self-manipulation in one form or another, and self-imagery and